What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers Advice. I sit here today doing this video. It's week 4. Panthers are 1-3. Am I shocked? I'm not. Right? We're going to talk about why I'm not in a second. But you know what? After week 2, I said the Panthers hit rock bottom. All right. Everyone's like, no, 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 no. You're blowing things out of proportion. I was like, okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm blowing things out of proportion. They come back. Get the W against the Falcons. It turns out the Panthers are bad and the Falcons just suck. All right, if we're being honest, for the Falcons to lose 30-0 to the Panthers, they suck. All right, and the Panthers are bad. Now, with that being said, all right, I look at the stats. Bryce Young 18 for 30. Yeah. I see Chuba Hubbard 10 for 49. Trevor Etienne 7 for 33. Rico 9 for 32. Okay. I see 8 targets to Tedero McMillan. And I'm just pointing things out real quick, and we're going to go over all these in a second. I see Tremble with 5 for 8. Okay. Bryson 3 for 4. Okay. Mitchell Evans 3 for 4. Chuba 3 for 3. All right. Bryson 1 fumble. I see Nick Scott. Okay, who else do I see? I see DJ Johnson down there. Now, a couple things I see right there, which we're going to talk about. You had Hunter Renfrow on the punt return to end the half, which made no sense to me, but whatever. You had Trevor Etienne on the other 2. You had Ryan Fitzgerald. Kick 1 field goal, he missed. It was a 55-yarder, and he missed extra point. Let's talk about this one real quick before I forget about it. Ryan Fitzgerald, I didn't like him kicking that 55-yarder to begin with. He just missed that extra point. I don't like him missing an extra point and then going out there and having him try a 55-yarder. Does that make sense where I'm going with that? You could tell he was frustrated, but actually now we're going to try and put you on a 55-yarder. I did not love that at all. But before we dive into this, a couple things I have to talk about. I believe Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham were not in, if I'm not mistaken, which didn't help the Panthers pass rush at all, because up until, was it yesterday, 2 days ago, I was watching Panther play. All right, go check out his YouTube channel. The Panthers had 1 sack on the season. I was like, no, that can't be true. It is true. The Panthers have 1 sack on the season. So then you take away, all right, Patrick Jones, DJ Wanham, and you start DJ Johnson alongside Nick Scorton. Now, Nick Scorton's usually playing that strong side most of the time, if I'm not mistaken. So now you're starting DJ Johnson again. Now, here's the thing with DJ Johnson. I realized I didn't show you guys the the stats as I was going through them, right? But here's all the numbers and stuff. All right, but back to DJ Johnson. It's the same thing as it was 2 years ago, right? When it was a Thursday night game, if I'm not mistaken. Tyson Bagent kept constantly rolling out. And then remember, it was week 1, the same thing happened. Trevor Lawrence rolls out, right? He hits an easy pass, all right, to, I believe, their tight end, if I'm not mistaken, okay, for an easy touchdown. So defensive line alone was bad, right? No pass rush. You had DJ Johnson in there, which I still don't understand. And we're going to get to really the higher ups in a second. But let's go back to the stats real quick and kind of dive into this. So DJ Johnson made no sense to me. Then you had Nick Scott tripping somebody. So you got DJ blowing contain, either that drive, the same drive, or the one before that. You got Nick Scott tripping somebody. I mean, all the momentum's gone. And then we get to the punt team. That was just laziness, if we're being honest, right? Let's call a spade. Just laziness, 2 in a row, right? Where, was it Marcus Jones, if I'm not mistaken? Should have taken them both to the house. All right, let me look. Yeah, Marcus Jones. Should have took 2 to the house back to back. The punt team, man, was just lazy. Let's keep it going. Fumbles, Bryson had 1. Receiving. I mean, look. I see Tedero right here. 4 catches, 8 targets. All right. 1 was overthrown. 2 might have been overthrown. 1 was a drop on him. I'm forgetting what the 4th incompletion was, to be honest. That's not acceptable. This just can't happen. You can't draft Tedero, okay, with the 8th overall pick and only have 8 targets towards him. And I went over this again early in the season. Everyone's like, no, don't worry about it. No, you start to see patterns. That's why this whole thing with Dave Canales is almost as bad as the thing with Frank Wright drafting Bryce Young. Now, apparently, Frank and Bryce have a great relationship, but that wasn't the quarterback for Frank. Everyone talked about Dave Canales needs his Mike Evans. No. What I'm guessing happened in Tampa Bay was head coach said, we have Mike Evans, we have Godwin, they have a couple good tight ends, they've got good backs to the backfield. You're going to throw it, and you're going to throw it heavy. We're not going to be a run-first team. And let's talk about that real quick, okay? Because I'm guessing that's what happened in Tampa Bay, because it doesn't seem like that's what Dave wants to do at all. Dave has to put his foot down at some point. Either him or Bryce have to go. And the reason I say that, right, on top of a couple other points we just went over, is this right here. One, Nick Scott. One's Nick Scott. Remember, because you released TMJ, right? Terrace Marshall Jr. You released him. You released Caleb on 2 years ago, and you released TMJ 2 years ago too, right? You released TMJ because he wouldn't do special teams. Caleb Vaughn, I don't remember why they released him. You released Ike Leota, right, the leading sack guy within the first 4 weeks. Why is Nick Scott still here? I mean, please tell me why he's still here on the team. I would like to know. And the same goes for DJ Johnson. Now, DJ Johnson, I've been trying to stick up for, right? I said he's my boy from Oregon, but it's time to go. He's giving you nothing. Him and Nick Scott literally aren't providing you any benefits. And the same has to go with XL too, with Leggett, right? Bryce Young has played average to completely below average this year. But at the same time, can I fault him? Yes and no. And the reason I go back to that is I go back to Leggett. Dave Canales is trying to force a receiver the ball who's mentally not 100% there. Physically may not be there either, to be honest with you. Imagine that being your offense. We're not talking about forcing the ball to Tedderell McMillan. We're not talking about forcing it to Chuba Hubbard. I don't know who else you could force it to on this team. No, we're trying to force it to Leggett. You're telling me that's not going to hurt Bryce's performance overall? Okay. It still doesn't excuse his mediocre quarterback play, right? But when I look at Dave Canales as a head coach, I'm like, this ain't it. You allow Nick Scott to stay on the team, even though you've released all these other guys. You talk about everyone's 100% in. You've allowed DJ Johnson to continue to start, right? You've allowed, unfortunately, I thought Trevor played good, but Roseboom continues to start, even though Roseboom is struggling bad. You're telling me there's nobody else behind them or in the practice squad that can play better? Right? This is the problem right now that the Panthers have. This is the problem. No one's taking accountability. Moves aren't being made at all. You know, when they released Caleb on Chazon, who's now on the Patriots, when they released TMJ, when they released Ike Leota, I thought they were, setting a standard. They weren't. They were just blowing smoke. Right, that's what it looks like on paper. And then when I see this right here, Chuba 10 carries, Rico 9. Let's talk about this real quick. What are we doing? Those are not the same backs. You pay Chuba a lot of money. You pay Rico maybe $3 million. And there's a reason for that, right? Rico should be coming in on kind of a 2nd and short, 3rd and short, maybe a 3rd and 5 type situation. Why are they switching off on drives? Once again, this all goes back to Bryce Young and his average quarterback play. Yes, he's at fault, but then you bring Rico in, okay, who's not really getting many yards, to be honest with you, because he's not the same back as Chuba. Now it's 2nd and long, okay? So you're like, okay, well, Bryce can't complete 10 yards. He should be able to a point, yes, but now you've got injuries across the board on the offensive line. So now it's 2nd and long, 3rd and long. What's the defense going to do? They're going to tee off. And because you have injuries, they don't have to send any exotic blitzes. They can come in with a 4-man rush, maybe a 5-man rush. You see how it all compounds each other? Chuba only having 10 carries is absolutely insane. He should have had 10 carries at half, and maybe he did. Maybe he did. But this is absolutely pathetic and insane, to be honest with you. Trevor Etienne finally seeing the ball. It only took for the Panthers to being down by what? 20, 30 points? And look at the numbers right here. Hang on. Look at the numbers right here. Trevor, 7 for 33. Rico, 9 for 32. So this whole time we're getting frustrated with Taviro, which we'll talk about in a second too. Trevor Etienne, clearly the better back than Rico. It's not hard to see, to be honest with you. And I go back to the Panthers' biggest problem is accountability, right? Nobody's holding Taviro responsible at all. Yes, the rush D has improved, but overall the defense sucks, right? Let's call a spade a spade. It sucks. It's terrible. I mean, blown coverage across the board from the backers. It's now week 4. No pass rush once again. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is honestly ridiculous. I mean, there's not a lot to break down, to be honest with you. I mean, as we go through the stats, there's not. I mean, only 8 targets, and then Rico 9, Chuba 10, because they were switching off drives. Nick Scott's still in. I thought Trevor Wallace played better today, to be honest with you. And as I wrote this thing up, You know, 0 pass rush. The Rika and Chuba changing possessions. T-Mac had a drop, a couple of bad throws to him, but only 8 targets. Special teams effort sucks. You know, Avero keeps playing DJ Johnson, Nick Scott. Force them all to excel. Caleb Vaughn now playing with the Patriots. I mean, like I said, it's all around bad. It's time for Tepper to step up and make a move. He's been out of the spotlight for the last year and a half, which is good. But now it's time to make a move because your franchise, it sucks right now. Unless this is what you want, Tepper. Unless this is what you wanted this whole time. But if it's not, you got to make a move. Somebody has to go. At this point, it is what it is, whoever goes. But somebody has to go. There's no pass rush. There's no offense. Dave Canales won't throw the ball deep. Bryce Young has been inconsistent. Offensive line, there are injuries, right? So that'll count for some stuff. But somebody has to go. So all that being said, let's going to wrap it up. Panthers advice is out. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.